Anyone who grew up in the 90s or early 2000s will remember coming home from school and tuning into Cartoon Network's Toonami anime block. Dragon Ball Z was arguably the biggest show on the block, and I was obsessed with it. As a kid, I thought it was the best series ever, and anyone who thought otherwise was just flat out wrong. Dragon Ball Z was a massive hit, and was the gateway drug that got a lot of us into anime. Yu Yu Hakusho was another series that aired on the weekly Toonami anime block back in the early 2000s. Despite how great the show was, it didn't get the reception that Dragon Ball Z got, which is strange when you consider that both series have a lot in common. Of course, Yu Yu Hakusho has gathered a cult following over the years, but it's a shame that so many people, including myself, didn't appreciate it during its initial run. I recently rewatched the entire series, and I can understand why it is so beloved. Don't get me wrong, I've always liked the show, but I don't remember finishing the series as a kid. When it was airing on Toonami, I think I stopped watching the series after the Dark Tournament arc ended. Regardless, after watching this show again, I would definitely put Yu Yu Hakusho in my personal top 10 best anime of all time, and is Yoshihiro Togashi's best work. By now we all know the basic premise of the show. A 14-year-old boy named Yusuke Urameshi gets killed trying to save a boy from getting hit by a car, and is offered a chance to live again after overcoming some ordeals and becoming Living World's new spirit detective. The show has a very unique cast of characters that aren't your typical cookie-cutter shonen archetypes. I love the fact that the main characters are rough around the edges, and for the most part they don't wear their hearts in their sleeve. Yusuke's unfiltered, rude, perverted, and thuggish behavior is so different from what we normally get in the main protagonist. Kuwabara is such a great character and exhibits characteristics we normally see in the protagonists in this kind of series. It was refreshing to see the rival character not be brooding, rude, or overly aggressive and angry. Throughout the series, Kuwabara is shown to be very courageous and stubborn, always adhering to his own personal code of honor. The third episode shows Kuwabara's unwavering adherence to his moral code and how much he values his friends when he refuses to get into fights so that his friend can keep his part-time job. In addition to being a foil character for Yusuke, he's also the comedy relief character, and he has a lot of funny moments. Kuwabara is one of the best characters in the entire series, and I can't believe I used to hate this character as a kid. I gravitated to Hiei as a child for obvious reasons. He's ruthless, cynical, reckless, and he's a loner. On the other hand, Kurama is more compassionate and calculating, and is the obvious foil to Hiei. Togashi does an excellent job introducing these main characters, and their friendship is developed organically by putting them in situations in which they are forced to rely on each other. For instance, in the Beast of Maze Castle arc, Yusuke, Kuwabara, and Kurama had to trust that Hiei wouldn't betray them at the gate of betrayal. In a later episode in the same arc, Kuwabara, Hiei, and Kurama created a makeshift ladder with their bodies so that Yusuke could reach the top of the tower where Suzuku was waiting. While Yusuke was fighting Suzuku, Kuwabara was fighting alongside Hiei and Kurama. A sense of camaraderie is built slowly between members of the group as they must depend on each other to survive, especially during the Dark Tournament arc. Outside of these four characters, others like Kuwabara's sister Shizuru and the wise and powerful Genkai are also well-written, likable characters. Yusuke's love interest Keiko isn't anything special in terms of her character, but is brought to life by the fantastic voice work of Laura Bailey. In general, the voice acting was really good, but that should be expected when you have notable voice actors like Chris Sabat, Justin Cook, and the aforementioned Laura Bailey attached to a series. The dialogue surprisingly still holds up and isn't nearly as cheesy as you might expect it to be, although it does get worse in the final arc. The music is memorable and evokes the themes of the series and the emotions of the main characters, especially the opening theme, Smile Bomb. The opening sequence and song was another thing that I found myself hating as a kid, probably because it wasn't rock music like Dragon Ball Z's Rock the Dragon theme. The lyrics in the song touch on the series' themes of identity, belonging, and sacrifice, and even conveys events in the series indirectly. It's such a great theme that touches on everything that the show's about, which is why I think they were smart to never change the opening song. The ending sequences and songs were great, but I didn't really like the fourth one. My favorites were the first two endings, Homework Never Ends and Sayonara Bye Bye. Endings and openings aside, the rest of the soundtrack does a great job complementing the action or drama unfolding. Struggle with Sadness was the Yusei run of the 1990s. That song could go with almost anything. The song helps to instill a feeling of uncertainty during scenes where things look dire for Yusuke and his friends. Togashi's great at creating tension and suspense by constantly raising the stakes and stacking the odds against the protagonist. Yusuke is constantly going up against opponents that are way stronger than him and usually comes out of a fight clinging to his life. Kuwabara is also constantly being outmatched throughout the series. During the Dark Tournament, the Black Club members that form the tournament committee constantly scheme against Yusuke's team, making it harder for them to advance to the next round. For instance, at one point, a member of the committee hires a fake nurse to rule Hiei and the masked fighter Genkai unfit to fight and traps them in an electric energy barrier, leaving only an injured Kuwabara, Yusuke, and Kurama left to fight for the team. Afterwards, Kurama was put at a disadvantage against Toya after having his spirit energy sealed by Gama's blood in the prior match. Kurama is left unconscious in the ring after this match against Gama, but the next fight starts regardless of his condition, so Yusuke's team ended up losing a match unfairly. Later, the same committee member that hired the fake nurse bribes the others for a double KO ruling for Yusuke's fight against Jin. These are only a few examples of the situations where characters must overcome unfavorable odds. Another benefit of Togashi constantly placing the protagonist at a disadvantage is that it keeps the show interesting and it helps the overall pacing because some new challenge is always lurking around the corner for Yusuke and his friends. Poor pacing was an issue that plagued a lot of anime shows in the 90s. Dragon Ball Z was notorious for having horrible pacing. Yu Yu Hakusho's pacing is almost perfect as episodes feel short and fights don't drag on for dozens of episodes. The final arc was the only time where things felt a bit rushed. The final arc, the Three Kings arc, is perhaps the weakest arc in the series. The story had so much potential with the possibility of a war brewing between three factions that were ruled by three powerful kings in the demon world. At the same time, Yusuke was questioning his place in the world after Sensui's death and recently discovering his demon lineage. Yusuke, Kurama, and Hiei each took the side of a different king. This meant that they could end up fighting each other if war had broken out, which I would have loved to see. After King Ryzen dies and Yusuke takes up his mantle, he convinces King Makuro and King Yami to abandon their traditional kingdom system and let a tournament decide the ruler of the demon world. I hated this sudden twist, and it felt like Togashi had gotten lazy and decided to abandon the bigger conflict that he was setting up. Instead, he played it safe and tried to recapture the magic of the Dark Tournament arc, but in my opinion, he failed. Despite the potential ramifications of the Dark World Tournament's outcome, the tension and suspense that was present in the Dark Tournament was absent for the majority of the fights. The matches just weren't as good as those that came before them. The best thing about this arc was the last bit of character development for Yusuke, Hiei, and Kurama. Kurama is forced to make a tough decision regarding his identity. Hiei finds what he's been searching for, both in terms of his connection to his mother and sister, but also someone who he can understand and even care for in King Makuro. Yusuke learns about his ancestral father and comes to the conclusion that he belongs in the human world with Keiko and his friends. Besides that disappointing arc, Yu Yu Hakusho's other arcs were great to watch unfold. The Dark Tournament and Chapter Black arcs were the best storylines, and Toguro and Sensui are the show's greatest villains. I've mentioned a few events from the Dark Tournament already, so I don't feel I need to elaborate any further. The Chapter Black saga was fantastic from start to finish. This is the deepest story arc in the entire series. The idea of a piece of media containing the worst sins of humanity on it was a great concept to introduce as the catalyst that broke Sensui and influenced his followers. When Sensui sees humans torturing demons while on a case and discovers the Chapter Black tape, his perception on humanity and demons changed drastically. He always believed that demons were evil and destroyed them without hesitation, even as a child. After witnessing the cruelty of humanity, Sensui believed humans were evil and deserved to be destroyed. This story arc tackles discrimination and prejudice within the context of humans and demons through Sensui and his followers, most notably Seaman. Overall, Yu Yu Hakusho is a great series that still holds up 25 years later. The characters are well written and their designs are distinct. It is paced way better than Togashi's other overrated series Hunter x Hunter, and it stays engaging from beginning to end. The disappointing final arc is the only thing keeping me from giving it a 10 out of 10. It wasn't bad, but it could have been better. That is why I'm giving Yu Yu Hakusho a 9 out of 10. A really great series, definitely check it out. Let me know what you guys think about Yu Yu Hakusho in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed listening to this review. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.